Gut Stuff, we're partnering with BioGaia to bring you Weaning with Guts. And Weaning Week's theme this year is Wean Wise, Gut Thrive. Is your gut thriving? Is it thriving? So, here at the Gut Stuff, we've pretty much got adult gut health on lockdown. But when it comes to kids, I literally didn't have a clue. So we've partnered with BioGaia to follow Bear's weaning journey with Lucy. Hi, who's a children's dietitian, to keep us on the right side of the tracks to follow Bear's journey for Weaning Week. Wish us luck. What goes in must come out.
What
So
goes
we
in
can't
must come
talk
out.
about weaning without talking about
Poo.
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 So,
Yes.
what, I guess weaning, one of the things that I was scared of was
Yeah.
that there was going to be full poo nannies and
Yeah.
we'd be back, you know, pooing all day, every day.
Yeah.
You know, what is normal?
So, Lucy's usual caveat, every
Yeah.
baby is going to be different.
Yeah.
So, when you start introducing solids, I suppose the first thing I always remind parents is that you're not going to be going in like with 4-3 meals a day and they're not going to be eating a lot. So actually,
Yeah.
not a lot will necessarily change. Most parents will say consistency starts to change, it might become thicker,
Yeah.
you'll have some wild colours in there.
Oh,
Especially
yeah.
if you're doing fun things, lots of green veggies, lots of beetroot.
Yeah.
You're gonna, everyone's like, oh my god, what's happened? And actually then you're like, oh yeah, what have you eaten?
Yeah.
What have you given them to eat? Lots of babies, so we have babies that swing either way. So as they start to eat more solids, we have some babies who really are like, okay, now I'm gonna poo for Britain.
Yeah.
And you might have had a 1-a-day baby and all of a sudden you're like,
Yeah.
oh wow. And often that's quite transient. That is, the gut microbiome is developing, baby's getting used to digesting a really wide range of foods. And imagine they've just had milk and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, and here's some vegetables, and here's some fruit, and here's some oats, and here's this, and here's that, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa,
Microbes having a
what
party.
am I doing? Some children swing the other way, and actually this is really common, and bung themselves
Godspeed,
up.
yeah.
And I say they don't do it themselves, but everything slows down. And I would say usually that's not something to be worried about unless it starts to affect how they're feeding, they've no appetite, they're uncomfortable, you know, and it's been several days and they're really struggling to go, in which case you might need to think about what you're going to do about that. But for most kids, it's quite transient.
Yeah.
Obvious red flag at this point is if you had some, you know, persisting and worsening symptoms, lots of diarrhea,
Yeah.
upsetting their tummy, upsetting their bum, you know, the skin was becoming damaged or sore,
Yeah.
and you weren't getting on top of it. At that point, it's probably worth having a chat just to make sure, like with a health professional,
Yeah.
to make sure that there's nothing in there that's causing them any discomfort.
Yeah.
You will see though, there's always going to be a consequence. You'll have babies who fart more.
Yeah.
You'll have babies who are a bit more windy. Yes, a bit
Yes.
windy. And I always say that lots of people worry about those things. That actually is just the gut doing its job.
Yeah.
You know, like we don't need to be worried about some excessive wind. You know, I say, do you fart?
Yeah.
You know, we just are much more aware of our babies.
Yeah.
Toileting,
Exactly. Yeah.
ins and outs, aren't we? More burpy, more farty. Some of those things can be very, very normal.
So we know our gut bugs love fibre.
Yeah.
These guys got down out as well.
Tasty
but a lot of
treats.
people can be scared
Yeah.
to have a lot of fibre because of exactly what we were just talking about. Lots of
Yeah,
farts
yeah.
and lots of poos.
Yeah. So with babies, they don't need to steer away from fibre. We need to make sure they don't have too many high fibre foods and very quickly. The gut needs time to adapt. We need fluid alongside, as you well know. But also, too high a fibre intake in babies and young children can sometimes displace other nutrients. They get full very quickly.
Yeah.
His little tummy is probably about the size of his fist. So you know when you look at
small.
he's quite small. Obviously it stretches.
Yeah.
So too much fibre too quickly can upset their bowels, but also can mean they get full and they don't take in other really important nutrients like the iron-rich foods and fat and stuff like that. I would say if you ever had any gut symptoms, we talked about allergy earlier, if you had any gut symptoms like, you know, diarrhea, abdominal discomfort, that sort of thing, combined with other signs of allergy, so skin changes, you think, actually this happens every time I give X food, it's worth going to have a chat with a health professional. Little bit of mucus and poo, probably not something to worry about. Everybody freaks out about a bit of mucus, and I'm like, it's in the gut, it's there for a reason. Do not worry about a bit of mucus.
Yeah, I've had a couple of those ones and been like, you know,
Ooh,
you're like with a
stringy.
nappy, you go like this, and then you're like, try again, I'm like, oh my god,
What is it?
That's good to know.
But lots of excessive mucus very regularly, maybe a sign that something is going on. Blood in stool, obviously a big red flag, straight to see and speak to somebody. And it can be for a variety of reasons. And it causes every parent to freak out, rightly so, and everybody tells you to worry about it. And as I've mentioned, if there's any other signs alongside, you always say, you know, gut symptoms of worry rarely exist in isolation. You might have an incredibly irritable, unhappy baby, and you're like, I do not know what's wrong. They're up there screaming. I've tried everything. Baby who's not gaining any weight or slowing down with their weight gain, those sorts of things. But honestly, the best advice I can give you is if gut feeling it doesn't feel right, your parent instincts are going, this just feels off, then go and have a chat with someone, even if it's just for that reassurance.